All right, everybody, hard hats back on. Today we're talking about how to get anywhere you want to go in the Grand Underground. Hello everybody, Blaine here for Bridge4 Games. So yeah, today we are doing another video talking about the Underground, and today we are talking about one of the most important topics that is also one of the least covered topics, and that is, how do you get exactly where you want to go in the Grand Underground? As we know, the Grand Underground is huge, and there are certain areas that are only accessible by certain parts of the overworld. So, how do you get where you want to go? Well, today we're going to cover exactly in depth, my usual level of detail, how we're going to get anywhere you want to go in the Grand Underground in about 1 minute flat. So, that being said, everybody, we are going to go ahead and dive right into this tutorial. But before we do, I just want to take a second to ask that if you like the videos we have here on the channel, please make sure that you actually like them by hitting the thumbs up button. And of course, consider subscribing to the channel to become part of our amazing Pokemon community, to also make sure that you never miss any of the awesome videos like this one. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the Underground. So, I know this map is massive. Let's just, don't panic, we're going to get through this together. So, we do know this is the Grand Underground map, and it is absolutely massive. So, there are basically 6 areas. Some websites say 7. I think it's pretty much 6. So, there is basically the areas on either corner, so the top right, top left, the bottom right, bottom left, and then there's that middle, like, pink chunk, and then all the area around that middle chunk. Now, the tricky part is those areas are not connected to one another in the Underground, so you can't just, you know, stroll all the way from the bottom left all the way to the top right. It doesn't work that way. So the question I have gotten asked more times than I can count, especially after my last Underground video, which, by the way, thank you guys for giving that video over 20,000 views. It is amazing. But ever since that video came out talking about everything you can do in the Underground, people have asked me time and time again how you can get to these different areas. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So first things first, we need to kind of identify each individual piece and kind of what's in there and why you would want to go there in the first place. So first off, Area 1, I generally call the bottom left, and that is kind of where you start off. It's, you know, mainly considered to be parts of like Twin Leaf Town, kind of where you start off if you just go in the Underground. This is where you'll go. Now, the main interesting things here are, there are Pokemon here that you would expect to see in the early parts of the game. So, as you can see, there's like a lot of grass areas, water areas, and kind of like the desert areas. So you're going to see a lot of like bug, grass, and water Pokemon, as well as some rock and ground type Pokemon. Kind of, you know, the early Pokemon that you tend to think of in kind of these kinds of games. So obviously, you know, filling out your team early is going to be really important, which is why a lot of people kind of want to get in and start exploring right away. You know, obviously you can't find the starters in here, but you can find things that can help fill out your team. Like if you are, you know, an Empoleon team, you can find Grassmons in here. You know, if you need to have access to like a rock type, you can do that here. Or even if you need like a water type, you can find that in here pretty easily as well. So just something to keep in mind. That is one of the earliest areas you can access, and really it's going to be kind of your first introduction to the Underground. Now, Area 2 is going to be the largest area, and it is basically, you know, you can access it through most towns and routes because it's so big. Now, it has almost every type within it, and that's pretty much just because it's so large. So because it encompasses almost half the Sinnoh map, you're obviously going to have pretty much every type represented. The one type that's not overly abundant is like dragons and fairies, which we're going to come back to in a little bit. But, you know, the reason you obviously want to get in here and know where you're going is because you can use this map and know your knowledge of the terrain to get the Pokemon and items you want. Because in here, obviously by its sheer size, you're going to have the largest amount of access to digging spots. You're probably going to be able to find the Digletts the most, you know, easily, as well as being able to go to areas like we see some fire Pokemon terrains, we see some kind of split ones, we see again more grass, water. So there's pretty much everything you want in, you know, this particular chunk of the Underground. And you know, it's really interesting that Area 2 is so large. It's actually the largest out of all the areas, because Area 3 is kind of the stark opposite. So as we can see, Area 3 is that area where it's smack dab in the middle of Area 2, right in the middle of the Underground map. And it is largely 2 crystal biomes with the glacier biome that has ice and water Pokemon within it. Now, this area is the smallest, which brings kind of pros and cons. So what's interesting is that because it's small, you can do everything there is to do, hop into a biome and hop back out, and then do everything there is to do again. So there are a pretty good amount of Diglett spawn points here, so you can, in theory, hit them all in a short amount of time and start collecting all your stuff quickly. That being said, you are severely limited on the types of Pokemon that are in here. So the biggest things you're going to see are a lot of psychic types, a lot of fairy types, even some dragon types in the crystal biome. Again, the 2 crystal biomes are where you can get Bagon when you do unlock the national dex in the post game. But, you know, it's very interesting because it's a really important area of the underground because it has that one typing in such an abundance. Now, moving on to some more, you know, smaller areas here that are still also important. We have Area 4. Now, that is the top left. Now, as we can see, this area is loaded with ice types and, you know, some steel types as well. So we see a lot of, like, you know, the glacier types, a lot of the ice types, some that are kind of like a hybrid of both. So you're going to see a lot of steel mons, a lot of ice mons, and of course there are some rock mons here as well. And we do have a small crystal biome that actually, if you look at the map, it's very kind of close to where the middle crystal biome is as well. So because of that, you know, obviously if you want to fill out your team with an ice mon or something like that, this is a great area to go into in order to get that. You know, again, in the post game, we do have Beldum spawning here, which is going to give you, of course, that Metagross once it evolves. So that's also something really cool to keep in mind because that Pokemon is awesome as well. Now, from Area 4, we kind of transition again to an area that's a little bit different, and that's Area 5. Now, Area 5 here is kind of an area you're going to encounter late in the game before the Elite Four, and it's only accessible from one area. We're going to talk about all the areas after this, but there's a good variety of mons, and the reason why, this is really your last chance to really get a lot of really, you know, kick butt mons before you go to the Elite Four. So this area becomes open to you kind of at that point, and there's a very good selection of mons because of that. You have, you know, your grass types, your poison types, you have some dark types in here, fire, rock, ground, you know, again, water. There's a ton of really cool options here that are available to you at this point in the game, which frankly, you're going to need it if your team is lacking in a certain area. You know, the Elite Four in this game, particularly for the starters, can be a little bit hostile. There is one member of the Elite Four that checks each starter very well. So because of that, you really need to plan your team when you're going in. Not even talking about Cynthia and her Garchomp and all that shenanigans. Every other member of the Elite Four can do one really, really big problematic thing against one of the starters. So like Aaron has bugs, bad for Torterra, and there's also Flint, bad for Torterra. We have, I think, Bertha with her ground type mons, terrible for Infernape, and it also gives actually some problems for Empoleon as well. So just something to keep in mind, you know, make sure you, if you have your, you know, if you're into the digging and into going underground, stop in this patch of it because you can really use what's here, you know, the availability and the resources to really help kind of fine tune and, you know, complete your team as you're going into that area. And of course, once you are done with that, we have Area 6 here. Now, Area 6, again, it is part of the post-game area. Most types are available here. Again, we see a crystal one. We do see a lot of like fire and, you know, rock type biomes, which is really cool. Obviously, there's that large one that's rock and lava, which is really, really cool as well. We see grass, water. Pretty much everything is here. It's just a really, really cool biome. Again, a nice way to kind of round off all the areas that are available to you. Now, how do we get into these biomes? We know it's in here. We've covered 1 through 6. How do you get into them and start catching these mons? Like, where are the best points for you to drop in? Well, let's start diving into that. So, Area 1 here, the first one we covered, there are basically, let's see here, 7 towns that are going to let you actually access the area. Now, the kind of points that you drop into don't correspond to the map at all, really. So I didn't want to lay them out and confuse you guys. So just kind of keep in mind that you can, once you're in the underground in this spot, you can pretty much get anywhere you want to get in about 1 or 2 minutes running just at normal speed. You can't use your bike, but you can use your good old foot power to get there, you know, at a pretty reasonable speed, especially with once you have the running shoes. So that being said, you know, we have Twin Leaf Town, the Verity Lakefront, which is right near Twin Leaf Town, Sanjum Town, Jubilife City, Floraroma Town, Canalave City, and Ramanas Park all are going to be the towns that let you drop in to this map right here. So, again, if you want those early game Pokemon, you're going to be able to do that because this is the area where you see a lot of those, and you get your Explorer Kit, and this is going to be, you know, your early game entrance point. Also, Ramanas Park is kind of in that area as well, so once you have that in the post game, you can drop in there as well and kind of like poke around and, you know, get some of those Pokemon once they're higher level and you have more things unlocked. Now, it was odd to me that, you know, like, I love Joe Merrick, I love Cerebi.net. It's an amazing, amazing website. He kind of just listed on there, like, all other areas go to the big middle chunk, but he didn't really list all the routes individually. And I feel like that's a bit of a shortcoming because using that, I had a bit of trouble navigating how to get into that middle chunk. So that's why I wanted to break it down by route. So as we see here, the routes that are going to get you into Area 1 are routes 201, 202, 203, and 204. The bottom half of 205 only, not the top, but the bottom will get you into this area. 207, 218, 219, 220, and 221. So obviously, those are the routes you want to hit if you are going to get in here. And also, if you want to get into a different area, particularly with like 205, keep in mind that the top goes to a different area. So if you don't want to go here, make sure you stick to the top part and you're not going to waste your time getting stuck back in this area. So now, Area 2. Now, keep in mind, Area 2 is the big one. So let's just say there's a lot of insertion points here. So Area 2 has a lot of routes that connect to it. So the towns that connect to it are going to be Eterna City, Hearthhome City, Solaceon Town, Pastoria City, and Veilstone City. Now, the routes that connect to it are, of course, the top half of 205, as well as 206, 208, 209, 210, the left half of 211, not the right, the left half, 212, 213, 214, 215, and 222. So I know that's kind of a lot to take in, but it does kind of follow the progression of the game because, you know, after you have that first chunk, you start going into the map more, and that's where you start accessing the second part. Then after we skip over the middle part, you get towards the sort of back half of the middle game, and that's where you start to see this area come up again. Now, again, this kind of makes sense, right? Because you're in the middle part of the game, you really want to fill in kind of everything and start developing your team for kind of, you know, the later part of it, and you want to start getting your mons really strong. There's a ton to do here, which is why that really makes sense. And hopefully, knowing exactly what routes and towns will take you in here, help you guys figure out exactly how to get in here and start, you know, catching those mons and training up your team. All right, now Area 3 is, of course, that small crystal area. And this is pretty simple. There's only really 2 spots that let you into here. So now, Celestic Town and Route 211, the right-hand side. I tried the route on the other side of Celestic Town, on the right-hand side. That did not work. So I believe that's Route 210. That was just, you know, pretty much the second chunk of the underground there. So if you do want to get into the pure crystal area, catch yourself some Bagons. If you were playing Shining Pearl, Brilliant Diamond, I'm sorry he's not in there. You can go ahead and use Celestic Town. Anywhere inside that border will get you in there, except in the houses, obviously, because that doesn't work. Or Route 211 on the right-hand side. Those will get you into this biome so you can catch your Fairy and Psychic-type Pokemon. Now, please excuse me, I did have to use the Diamond and Pearl map to fit everything in here, not the BDSP map. I'm sorry about that, but I did want to just cover everything so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here. So, that being said, let's talk about Area 4. Now, spoiler, Area 4 had a lot of ice Pokemon, so can you guess what town and routes connect to the underground there? That's right, it is pretty much Snow Point City. So, Snow Point City is the big one. That is obviously the most common area to hop into the underground there for those types, but routes 216 and 217, the snowy icy ones, will get you there as well. Now, obviously this part isn't exactly rocket science, but if you do want those steel types and ice types, that is going to be a very easy way for you to hop in there and get those Pokemon. Now, again, you know, ice types, I'm going to be honest, ice types are not great. They really get kind of hosed in Pokemon because, one, they don't have a lot of super effectives, and they also can get hit by a lot of things really, really hard. But, and you know, also on top of that, a lot of water mons just have ice type attacks, but steel mons are amazing. They resist a ton of things. They also do super effective against fairies and rock mons. So, you know, it's really good to have just to, you know, kind of round out your team and give you some options for, like, you know, the post game or for even like the Elite Four or the last couple gym leaders. So definitely a very good tool, and knowing how to get into this area in particular is really helpful. Now, Area 5 is going to be, you know, the one where you have a lot of diversified mons, and its placement to the Elite Four should kind of give you an idea of where it is. So, Sunny Shore City is going to be the pretty much only place you can get into this. Now, I have been told if you are surfing kind of in that area and there's like kind of rocks nearby that might clip into Sunny Shore City or into this part of the underground, just go into Sunny Shore City and drop down. None of the routes directly connect to it. Even if you go right before the door on the you know, border to get into the Sunny Shore City, that still connects to the main Area 2. So because of that, you know, just go into the city and you can drop down pretty much anywhere into this area. And obviously that's a really, you know, kind of no muss, no fuss way of doing it, because you do have this really awesome area as far as being able to get your Pokemon fill out your team with any big gaps, and even train against some pretty tough Pokemon, because by the point you're here, the Pokemon in the underground are going to be in the 40s or even 50s, so it's going to be a lot of experience for you when you beat those Pokemon up and, KO them. So it's really going to be a really awesome tool for you to be able to complete your game kind of, no muss, no fuss. Now, Area 6, as we talked about, is going to be the post-game area for the Battle Zone and surrounding resort areas. Again, there's a ton of stuff here. Really, the only way to access the top 6, the Area 6, the top right area, is going to be in the post-game. So if you do want to access this, you do need to have beaten the Elite Four and all that good stuff. But once you're there, you can drop into the underground and get any of the awesome Pokemon and items in this chunk of the underground. And hopefully, it's not too much trouble for you to get there, because there is a lot here, especially given all the kind of unique biomes we see here. And putting your secret base there would be really cool as well, which is where I put mine. So definitely something to keep in mind, and hopefully knowing exactly how to navigate and how to get into these different areas makes things a little bit easier for you, because it can look a little overwhelming, but once you break it down, we can really see it's kind of not that hard to do once you know exactly what areas will get you to what parts of the underground. So there you have it, everybody. I hope you found this video helpful and entertaining, and most importantly, I hope you're able to use this video to navigate the underground and get exactly where you want to go, put those bases where you want to go, and get those Pokemon that you want, because it can be very overwhelming, but there is a lot of cool stuff in the Sinnoh Underground that you can find and explore, and you can add a ton of cool things to your collection just by heading in there and digging around for a little bit. So that being said, everybody, if you like this video, please make sure that you absolutely impact that like button in the face and consider subscribing to the channel to become part of our amazing Pokemon community. I've been Blaine for Bridge4 Games. Thank you all so much for coming by and hanging out with me as we talk about the Underground again. And also, guys, thank you so much for all the support on the previous Underground video. Again, we're over 20,000 views on that video, and it is just unbelievable to see so much support. So thank you all for all of that, all the views, all the likes, all the comments, and of course, all the subs. That is so overwhelming. Thank you guys so much. So again, I've been Blaine for Bridge4 Games. I hope each and every one of you have an awesome, epic, and amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. See you around. Bye-bye.